Hi and welcome to Dynamics Update. It's now the middle of August and we are back from a well-needed vacation. And with I mean Gustav Sundblad, as always.
Hello,
Hello.
everyone.
Hi.
Nice to be back. Are you rested?
Yes, but I've actually been working for almost 3 weeks now, so it's
Oh,
I'm almost in need of a new vacation, actually.
yeah, that's how it is.
Yeah.
I've been back for about 2 weeks, so I'm fully back in the same speed. It's almost like as if the summer never happened. But some happy memories at least.
Yeah, absolutely. But we are here today to talk about the version 10.0.36. And I would actually like to start with one thing. And
Go
that
ahead.
is that we are actually right now on 10.0.36 version 2 instead of version 1. Because apparently there were some really nasty bugs in version 1. We actually noticed some of them.
Yeah, we had one. If we suspect it was part of it, right? But at least it went away with version 2. So
Exactly. So there is, for you who are running the preview, there is actually a second version of the preview that I really urge you to install. Because if Microsoft releases a new version of the preview, then it's probably pretty serious. So then you should probably listen to them.
basically, I mean, our issue was we could not post anything at all in the environment. So, and it's a preview, and this is one of our internal environments, and we have a lot of stuff enabled in that environment. But still, now it's back to normal and working. So I would suspect there were some under the hood issues there that needed to be fixed. But it's good. It's good that they are on top of it and that they release it. And still, it's a preview version. So never ever deploy preview to production unless
or anywhere close.
Really wild. No, unless you're really wild.
And I would also like to say that apart from the version 10.0.36 that popped out sometime during the summer, we also got the release wave during the summer, which, as we've mentioned before, is sometimes sort of a marketing stunt and sometimes more of a preview of what is going to come in the upcoming releases. So it's the wave is basically a way for Microsoft to be able to bundle release notes into a nice document and send them out in bundles. But what you need to know is that what's in the release notes is actually not available. All of it. Some of it is available and some of it is coming.
Yeah. It's a way to point out the direction and to know what's coming. It's not on like this and this entity is coming. It's more on a functional level. It would be nice to know which entities are coming in like further versions ahead. But that's maybe something to wish for later on. So you don't need to build something that's coming.
Yep.
But it's the best we have.
Yep.
It's pretty comprehensive, and as you say, a lot of this stuff is like coming soon. It's not always super detailed, but at least if you have a discussion or an impending need, then reach out to some of your representatives. Maybe they can help out with getting some more information. Who knows?
Yes. So let's get started. You're up first.
Oh, thank you. It's a favorite topic of mine here is the inventory visibility. We've been discussing this a number of times since it came out. I work a lot in retail, so the notion of like group on hand is always a question or a challenge. How to get it's about performance. It's about trusting the on hand figures, and if you have multiple systems and multiple channels. It always becomes a problem. So visibility is a really nice add-in for that because it allows you to offset your on-hand API calls from a performance perspective, as well as use multiple different sources for getting on hand. And it's really like for each release, it's gotten some new nice features with reservation possibilities and fencing, etc. Now the feature that's coming now, it's native integration between commerce and visibility. I actually tried enabling this, but I just could not see it in this 36 version we have available to us now. So it might be that this is one of those coming soon, as in not when it was supposed to come. But if it's in 37, I'll let you know. But basically what it does is it allows from store commerce or from headless commerce, you'll have the option as using visibility as a provider. So you'll be able to see from store commerce other on-hand providers than exist in F&O. Previously, it's been more like supply chain feeding visibility app. You could work with transactions, with the reservations and offsets. So it was good, but this is really a good solution when you have the scenario of multiple, let's say, sister brands, sister channels, where they might not reside in the same system, same tenant, but you still want to be able to see for replenishment purposes or for upsell, where you can, well, we don't have it, but our sister store over here has it. And it seems it's a very nice thing that's coming out of the box then. I was looking into extending this from commerce and calling the API directly, but now it seems to be native. So to be continued. It says it's listed in the 36 notes, but I couldn't actually see it in the 36, even in the version 2 that we have now. So I'll try to investigate some more until next time.
Yes. So my first one is actually also on the commerce or retail track. And that has to do with such a simple thing as receipt numbers. If you have legal requirements that you need, that you have strict requirements for unique receipt IDs, then you can actually have the commerce scale unit pick up the number sequence for the receipts every time it restarts, so that you don't miss out on any receipt numbers in your number sequence.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, it's a very minor detail, you would think, but it's actually pretty important with numbering, not only for legal purposes. You have a lot of auditing in many countries, but they're very, very strict about this. But also from, I know for like previous, this was not Dynamics, but issues with receipt numbers, because you don't want receipt numbers to be in the millions. They want to be like nice little tiny numbers in many cases. And when the stores went offline for an extended period of time, they had some issues because it kind of hit the limit. They had to do a reset from HQ side. So take care of your receipt number sequences, because they might come back and bite you if you don't.
Yes, absolutely. So what's your next one?
We're on the commerce topic anyway. I just noticed that there are some enhancements to the loyalty card functionality, specifically that you can define types. You could be a little bit more granular in how you want to use your card types. You can define it as a tender, so you can like redeem reward points. You could use it as a contact tender, which means that you can redeem reward points like from any card. If you have multiple loyalty systems going, you don't want the customer to have like multiple cards. You can just use the card to identify the customer and then reward them anyway. So it's a little bit bread and butter, and I know a lot of customers are using external loyalty, but I think it covers a lot of the basis for what you would expect from a loyalty program, really. So if you don't have very, very complicated needs, look into the loyalty functionality.
Yes. Then I think you bounced one over to me, because this is actually one of my favorite areas that is coming in.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought I won't steal it from you. So
in F&O, and it has to do with database maintenance and archiving, of course. So we've discussed the feature around archiving, and the thing is that this is actually split up into multiple things. So first of all, you have the main setup for archiving. How to do it and what batch jobs is going on. And then Microsoft is going to activate specific tables where we archive things going forward. And as I understand it, what will happen is that we will actually have like a history table where we move things over from the original table. So we are actually removing things from the original database physically. And we are then moving it out into a data lake eventually, because in the data lake it will be available for reporting and for AI and everything like that. So meaning that if we do intelligence on our data, we will still get the entire history of data. It will just not just be in F&O, so it will be removed from F&O. But one of the cool things here is that you will actually be able to revert them, to restore them back into the database once they have been removed. And exactly how this is going to work is not really fixed yet. It will. I think the ambition is that it is coming, and it's really, really cool that it's, if we by mistake archive something, or if we, for instance, have changed legal requirements all of a sudden, then we can actually move the data back, which might show up to be a bit tricky. But one thing I'm actually hoping for here is that because I would want to be able to export, say, an AX 2012 database into the same format that's in the data lake. That would be really nice, because if we could, then we can actually throw away all of those AX 2012 instances that we have lying around for historical purposes, and we put everything in the same data lake.
Okay, you mean the read-only ones that are up and running?
Yes.
Or do you mean the AX? Okay, because don't forget the customizations. No, but that's a good point. I mean, I think a lot of people save storage on those old instances by like doing a one-box solution. But yeah, it makes sense. And if nothing else, to streamline the data, because then you have it in the same format.
The problem isn't just the VM on the instance. The problem is that eventually you will actually have an issue even being able to connect to it and start the client and getting into it. So I see this more not as a cost saving thing, but more as a future proofing thing. I mean, if it's okay for us to archive things from F&O to data lake, it should be okay for us to archive AX 2012 to data lake.
As long as you do it in the exact same format. Yeah, but that's right. I wouldn't want to be the developer here to get the work item. You need to enable restoring data back. I mean, in all essence, if it's table stored, shouldn't be that complicated. It should be just,
I mean, you're
how do you select the correct records?
I mean, I would say that just connected to the F&O instance, getting all of the metadata for all of the tables, and then just pushing AX 2012 out into the same format. It's okay. You have the entire weekend. Just go crazy.
Yeah, I'm more of like worried about someone accidentally like sneezes and selects all the archive and just forgets it and goes home, and then when you come on Monday, you have accidentally restored 10 years of financial transactions.
Yeah, because
I just see a lot of issues here. Right?
It would be a fantastic data migration solution if we could just export it to data lake and just push it back into the F&O environment.
No, yeah, absolutely. But yeah. No, but of course, if you enable deletion, which it is here, basically you're deleting data off your primary ERP database. So you're moving it somewhere else, but you're actually deleting it as well. Then a fallback or rollback option is very nice. So I think that makes sense. I would imagine this would be for specific financial scenarios where you normally have these legal requirements. There is already archiving of sales orders available. You can delete them. There's a number of scenarios that don't require, from a legal perspective, that you actually save it. It's more from data maintenance perspective. So from a legal, I would imagine this is mainly for like financial transactions and stuff that is being regulated.
Yes, I was actually coming to that, because what it has to do within this exact release is actually inventory transactions, so journals and so on, and I think as I said before, the point is that we are actually purging the data, so we need to be a bit careful. But I also think that doing our homework and making sure that we don't save things just because we can is probably a good idea.
Yeah, and I'm again here imagining the poor developer, hopefully developers, that's doing this also based on the changes in the InventTrans logic for warehouse work, etc. So all the same, I mean, there must be some kind of you can only move it back for a period of time because we're changing the way the system works as well. So you can't restore data exported from version 26 into a version 36 database without at least some issues, I would imagine. So
I guess so.
I'm not going to dive into it. I'm just hoping that it works. Or I hope I never have to use it. The restoring part, I mean.
Yep.
So if my next topic here, I'm sliding into finance. Fun fact is importing, or the automatic importing of a bank statements. I thought actually before this release, I encountered this actual procedure, and I couldn't understand why this was not already super easy to implement. But it wasn't there. It was not easy to automatically import a bank statement, so you had to build something. It wasn't that complicated. But this feature here allows for importing bank statement files from a SharePoint folder, and you can set up recurrence rules, and you can, like every day or every month, so you can build a process that revolves around putting files on SharePoint. And I wondered why, because I would like put it on a blob somewhere. Why use SharePoint here? But it makes sense because the most people downloading bank statement files are finance controllers, and maybe you don't want to give them access to network area storages or blobs. They don't want to use Azure Storage Explorer normally. So it makes sense from a process perspective that you have someone who downloads the bank statement file, they put it on SharePoint, then you have a job to automatically import it. You don't need to spend a lot of money building APIs towards the banks. Banks change, and God knows, every bank have their own flavor of APIs and formats, etc. So I would do it this way. I would let someone download it and put it on a SharePoint folder somewhere, and then set up a job to import it. That's the peak level of automation here.
Absolutely. And on the subject of cleaning, my next feature here is actually related to data management. And it has to do with the fact that when we do data management jobs, we first of all accumulate a lot of history logs, which is bad enough. But above that, we also accumulate a lot of staging tables and data in staging tables, especially if we do big bulk loads of data. They end up in the staging table, and they are not being automatically removed, which means that they are still in the F&O database, because that's where they are located. This is actually an automatic cleanup feature. Before, we could actually, if I remember correctly, we could actually build batch jobs that did this for us, that clean these things for us. Now it's actually a feature that is on by default, which means that everything in DMF, staging tables and history is erased after 90 days. Period.
Oh, yeah. And that makes a lot of, you should already have this in place, but if you don't, then we will do it for you. That's a good, nice way of writing.
You can probably set it up to be much faster than 90 days, but 90 days is, and I think this is an important part, because this has to do with the fact that there is a capacity meter in Power Platform Admin Center, which tells you that most of you guys are like 300% over your allotted limit for your F&O database. So this is a low-hanging fruit to get the database in a sort of better shape.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yes.
A little I can do too, because my first one here is just a very small one. Financial tags, they are taking over the world. Now they are available for sales orders, for packing slips and customer invoice documents. So if you're not using it, then you have a need to track or reconcile data. It's the old AX Axapta dimensions on the table, all back now and not as complicated as real financial dimensions. But now they're available on sales orders as well. And they will basically be all over the place once they're done, I suspect. Another topic that I noted, and I actually started testing as well, is the credit and collections. That's like the most, well, not going to say boring part, but when you need to friendly first remind your customers that they need to pay, and then you need to kind of ramp it up and then actually send it to a collector. There is a collections coordinator workspace, which is new. It's basically a timeline view of that interaction with the customer. So you have a collections agent working in that workspace where you can really see what has actually happened here from a timeline perspective, which is nice. And I think the collection component, a lot of people work with third-party collectors, collector agency. That does not exclude that you can actually work in F&O as well. You can set up the process of working with collections, but then you can actually send it to another third party to do the actual collection, because normally people, if I understand it correctly, speaking with people in the industry, you get a higher percentage of people paying when you have a known something scary coming in the mail. If they have your friendly brand on the letter, they don't pay. But if you have a scary collection agency name on the letter, then they pay. But using this coordinator workspace, you can do it within Dynamics, and it's really nice. And one of the features that comes on top of that is the AI generated summary based on this all the information that we have available to us. You can actually have F&O pre-generate a summary and an email. It's a draft, of course, so some human hopefully actually can read it first before you send it out. It's a nice little AI feature to just make things easier. You don't need to, okay, what happened first and then this happened. It's basically just generating. We can see that you haven't paid this order on this date, and it gives you this bulk, and then you can edit it. To be able to use this, and I implore you to do this, you need to walk through the setup of installing Copilot and installing these AI components from your linked Power Platform. So if you haven't gotten the go-ahead to do that yet, you might want to use this as a way in to do it in your environment of choice. It's not super complicated, but if you try to enable the feature before that, the feature can't be enabled. It'll just be red. You will have to walk through the setup of Copilot and upgrading the virtual entities in Dataverse, and then you'll be able to activate this feature and try it out. I haven't tried it out in Swedish, so I suspect it's better suited for English right now. But it's a really cool pitch, at least, to look at how to implement AI in your daily work.
Yes. And to top you off, having two features in the same one, I will give you none less than 4. But the thing they all have in common is because they have to do with interoperability between CRM and F&O. So this is actually one thing I picked up from the Wave release document from Microsoft. I told you that it was mostly sales pitch, but in this case, it's actually some clarifications around the One Dynamics One platform story coming up. So we have 4 features. The first one is simplify access to Dataverse by finance and operations apps. So how do we access Dataverse from finance and operations? The second one is dual write availability expands to different countries. So that's a good thing. Dual write is the way we move data between F&O and CRM. The next one is improvement of virtual tables. So in case we don't want to move the data from F&O to CRM, we can actually access the data from CRM anyway from a virtual table, which uses OData or an API to get the data from F&O and improve performance. Actually, the reason for this is because it's being used to bulk export data that way. So that's the reason why we have the improved performance in this case. And the final one is also related to dual write, and it has to do with application lifecycle management of dual write solutions. So this means that you can actually build an application lifecycle which is automated around your field mappings and table mappings in dual write. So you save them, and you can actually automate the moving of them between different environments in order to get everything as smooth as possible for moving things between dev, test, UAT to production eventually.
Yeah, it's really nice.
So that's really nice, but that actually shows us that the fact that Microsoft nowadays is treating F&O like a very tightly connected suite of applications is something that's sort of not going away. The title says it all: one Dynamics, one platform.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking it was going away. I don't think. I hope no one hoped that. It's pretty clear, and I think that's when doing these sessions. Normally, we go through all the documentation and try to cherry pick the ones that are most interesting based off the information that we have and what's new topics. And it's important, and I think we stressed this before as well, to not only stay in the F&O, like my safe space here. You need to branch out and also understand, because these things do have implications. The batch jobs, all the things that you mentioned here, Johannes, are things that will impact the way the platform works. And in the end, I mean, just the archiving that we discussed here. So also Dataverse, the cross-platform components, and the One Dynamics. It's important to read up on that and to understand how it will impact your way of working. Even if you're just using F&O, it will have an impact. Yeah, I have one final thing. Actually, I would be amiss if I wouldn't mention this. A friend of mine, a colleague at the office, apparently supply chain people are very happy about this. So it's a feature for selling and pricing product bundles. Basically, you can sell a bundle of items and this is in supply chain. Then, so on a sales order, you can have a product bundle. When you add it to the sales order, it will explode the items. It's not like a bill of material. It will explode the items and price them according to the product bundle price. So you can have a set of items that are sold at a specific price, and it handles the inventory transactions correctly. And this has apparently been lacking a little bit. So a lot of people seems to be happy about it. I want to mention it. It's coming in version 36. It will replace what's previously used in revenue recognition for bundles, but I haven't tested it out myself. I will have my supply chain colleagues do that and come back with a review.
Yes, I also actually have a very, very short one on supply chain. That's not F&O per se, but it actually has to do with the warehouse application. We discussed, I think it was the last version show that we did. We discussed doing application insight monitoring of the warehouse application and what it did, and you could follow and actually trace what it did from application insights. And if you do warehouse applications, there is one thing that you will absolutely bump into in every single case. And that's the fact that you don't have enough Wi-Fi coverage in your warehouse. It never goes away. It's always an issue. I haven't been in any large warehouse implementation there where Wi-Fi hasn't been sort of an issue.
Dead zones, yeah.
Exactly. And the thing here is that with version 2.1.12.0 of the warehouse application app, it is actually reporting Wi-Fi signal strength through the warehouse app to application insights. So you can actually get a heat map of your warehouse to try to figure out exactly where you have issues with your Wi-Fi. This is cool. So cool.
Yeah. Activate it and let's see all your heat maps. That's really because a nice little feature, and it helps a lot because that does prevent efficiency. Cool.
Yep. So with that, I think we are done for today. We have a couple of things in the pipe in this autumn. We are going to talk a bit about analytics. We are going to do some interviews again. We will continue with those as well. So there are interesting shows coming up. But for today, we are done. Thank you, everyone, and hear from you next time. Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Take care.